Hey everyone, it is Kathy with Backyard Columbus, still in my backyard on a roll of recording podcast episodes because it's my day off and it is a beautiful day. I like to do a lot of these in a row so I don't get all stressed out, and it's wonderful just to be able to do it outside. So today's episode, I would like to share with you about raising butterflies. So I may have done a little bit about this before. I know I've talked a lot about monarch butterflies, and I would like to say that this year, this is 2024. It is currently very late August. I believe it is August 26th, and it is an abysmal train wreck. And so, there are several things that have affected the monarch populations especially, but, all the other butterflies go along with it. It is habitat loss, pesticide use, climate change, and look, I don't care whether you believe in that or not, climates do change, human-caused or otherwise, and it's all affected these populations. Now, you can argue there are things we may or may not be able to do about climate change, but within your own climate of your backyard, there is lots that we can do. So before I get into raising butterflies, I do need to say that if you would like to do that in whatever form, and we'll talk about that, obviously that's the point of this episode, but then you need to create a habitat in which they can live, in which they can thrive, or at least get started. Because you don't raise a butterfly and it doesn't stay in your yard, because then what would end up probably happening is you would have a bunch of butterfly inbreeding, and that's not good for any species. So if you would like to get into conserving, raising, seeing butterflies, then number one, you need to create a habitat that attracts them to your yard. And I've done other episodes about this, but that would entail limiting your pesticide use. And look, again, I say this all the time, if you have a patch of poison ivy and you just cannot get rid of it and you have to nuke it with Roundup, then I would understand that. But let me also add that there is such a thing called gardener's grade vinegar. And if you have been listening to all of my podcasts, number one, thank you. Number two, I have said this before, but in case you haven't, I would like to say there is such a thing called gardener's grade vinegar. And that is like a 40% grade of vinegar, like a 40%, I don't know what else to say. It's called 40% vinegar. And it is not your average kitchen vinegar. It's not red wine vinegar. It's not apple cider vinegar. It's not white vinegar. It is very acidic and it will incinerate whatever you spray it on. So that is a really good option that is not poison. Okay, and so people broadly spray this stuff all over their yard, and they do not understand that while they are putting pesticides and herbicides all over their yard, they are killing the things that they would like to have and like to see. So lightning bugs are one of those things. They live in the ground until the evening, and then they pop out. And if you have sprayed your yard, had your yard sprayed, then you've killed them, and you didn't realize that. So there are moths that lay their eggs, and moths are important pollinators also. They lay their eggs on certain kind of, I'll call them fancy grasses. They're called sedges and rushes. Anyway, they look like fancy round patches of grass. And those are host plants. And a host plant means, I'm going to say it my way, that's the plant that a moth or butterfly needs to lay its eggs on. It hosts the caterpillar that comes out of that egg, and that caterpillar needs to eat certain leaves. For monarchs, that means milkweed. For the zebra swallowtail butterfly, that means the leaves of a pawpaw tree. So every kind of moth and butterfly has a specific plant or a species of plant, like a plant family, that they need. Okay, so if you would like to attract butterflies to your yard or moths, then you could plant in your living space, whether it's a yard, patio, or balcony, the things that say your favorite. Let's just stick with monarchs because it's the easiest. You can Google what is a host plant for whatever butterfly you've heard of that you think is amazing. Zebra swallowtail butterfly, it would tell you need a pawpaw tree if you would like to get zebra swallowtail caterpillars. For the black swallowtail butterfly, it is fennel, Queen Anne's lace, dill, parsley. It's all members of the carrot family. So you see sometimes they are a larger family of plants. But for the monarch butterfly, it's a milkweed. So even on your patio or even on your balcony of your apartment, you could plant a pots of nectar-producing flowers and 1 pot of milkweed, and you might be surprised to find yourself with monarch caterpillars. So raising butterflies or attracting butterflies to your yard means that you need to have the host plant a place for where they can raise their young, because every living creature on this planet wants to breed. So getting the host plant would be a great second step. The great first step would be providing food. We all need to eat, and so a nectar-producing plant in your yard, to whatever degree you are able to do that, is a wonderful start. And so I will start off by saying that as far as food goes, if all you can do right now, say you've gotten yourself a house and it is a blank slate of a yard, okay? You have nothing but grass. And you're like, I'm short on time, I'm short on money, I don't have time to plant anything, then I would tell you, plant an oak tree. Oak trees host, which means, again, the moths and butterflies lay their eggs on the leaves of all species of oak trees. Oak trees host over 500 species of moths and butterflies. Can you believe that? So if all you did was plant an oak tree, it would be like an amazing start. And if that's all you did, that would kind of be amazing. I mean, that's a lot of moths and butterflies that you are able to attract to your yard. But that's where they would raise their young, but then the butterflies themselves still need to eat. And so here's where it gets really tricky. Not until a couple of years ago did I realize that not all flowers produce nectar. And so that's a problem, because if you don't know that, then you don't know that. And no one's going to tell you that because they don't know that either. So I am looking at these in my yard right now. They're anemones. They're pretty little flowers. They're purple with little yellow middles. Well, those are sterile. Like, do you understand? They don't produce any nectar or pollen. And at least for the bees and butterflies here, I don't know if this is a hybridized species or not, which in my words means it was tinkered with in a lab. And so they tinker with all these flowers in the labs because somebody decided that the beautiful, Pepto-Bismol pink of the echinacea, the coneflower, the purple coneflower, wasn't enough. And they wanted yellow ones and orange ones and red ones and all of these other colors that I don't think are naturally occurring, so they created them in a lab. Well, that's groovy, but many of those, and this goes for all kinds of flowers, many of those are sterile. They don't produce the same kind of nectar, so it's either a very poor quality, like a cheap, nasty candy bar, and some candy bars are really good, I'm not going to lie, but you know, what I'm saying is it might be very poor quality nectar to keep the butterflies healthy, or it doesn't produce it at all. So if you want all those colors and all of those varieties, I'm not telling you you can't plant those. I am encouraging you to please plant the original, like the goat, you know what I mean? Or not the goat, it would be the OG, right? The original gangsta of flowers. Whatever that native original flower is, plant that, and then who cares what else that you plant if it floats your boat and makes you happy, as long as it isn't an invasive species, okay? So having a place to raise their young and having a place to eat will ensure that you will attract butterflies, and it will ensure that I see more butterflies. Because if I convince all of my neighbors to do the same thing, just 2 pots or 15 square feet or 20 square feet or along your sidewalk, and I've talked about this before, one little area around a tree or on the side of your patio, it doesn't have to be an extensive yard makeover. You can just start a little spot, because if everybody had a little spot, we would all have more butterflies. So the reason I am prepping this episode by saying all of that is because you can actually order, I'm assuming it's the caterpillars. I don't think they would ship you eggs, but maybe they do. So you can order all kinds of species of butterflies like native to your area that you can raise. And it probably comes with a little pop-up mesh tent. And then you and your kids, or you, if you're a like-minded scientific person like me, need the food that they need. And that would be the host plant leaves, okay? So whether, I don't know if those kits come with the host plant or they tell you to make sure they have the host plant or whatever, but that would be something you would need to watch that whole process, even if you mail ordered your caterpillars, okay? But then, so say you've watched the whole process, you watched the caterpillar get bigger, it made its chrysalis, it came out, you and your kids are amazed, and all that's wonderful. Then you got to let the thing go. And where's it going to go to eat anything? You know what I mean? Your whole backyard, your neighbor's backyard, half a block of people don't have anything for it to eat. So that is why I like to encourage people as often as I can, without being ridiculously repetitive, that we all plant more native plants. And that is the big deal of why you keep hearing hashtag plant native plants, hashtag plant native, or you're seeing it on, hearing it on streaming and not streaming, podcasts and YouTube and all these radio shows. They're talking about planting native because now people are finally realizing that we have imported all of these flowers and bushes and trees from all over the world, and they may look pretty, but they are not feeding the local wildlife. You get what I'm saying? So you can have some of those elements in your yard also. I mean, we have a Japanese maple also, okay? But we also have an oak tree and like on and on and on and on, all the native stuff that we want and should have. So if you're going to do raised butterflies, that is something you need to consider. It has been said that when you're raising monarch butterflies, that it is better to have them on an outside patio, an outside enclosure, because there may be a thing. And look, I am not an expert. I'm a very passionate backyard scientist, I'll say, and I have raised monarch butterflies for, I think, 3 years now. I gather the eggs. When I see a monarch butterfly female come into our yard, I watch where she goes. And if I see her lay one egg, then I will go, because I'm a weirdo like this, I will go to every single milkweed plant we have in. It is a lot. And look under all of the leaves, because you can actually, I have a video about this. You can find the eggs, and then you put them in your cabinet and watch the whole process. Okay. So, but it messes up their internal compass, is what I understand, if you raise these butterflies that migrate, which is the monarch, inside. So on your front porch, on an outside patio, in an outside enclosure would be the best. Because the migratory monarchs actually live 6 to 9 months. It's the 5th generation of monarchs, and they are the ones that will arrive here, like just say August. They lay their, that's the 4th generation. They lay their eggs. Those eggs turn into caterpillars, turn into butterflies, and those monarchs, that's the 5th generation, late August into September, maybe early October, and those are the ones that fly to Mexico. They migrate, so they live 6 to 9 months. Every other butterfly and moth, I'm assuming, live, well, this will blow your mind, 6 to 12 days. Doesn't that suck? I mean, seriously, you were a caterpillar. You spent all these weeks eating. You turned into goo, reconstituted yourself into a butterfly, and then all you're going to do is live like a week and a half. That really sucks. So anyway, that's really kind of the deal. It's very simple to raise butterflies. All those mail order things come with instructions. If you have a yard with some milkweed, you want to try your hand at facilitating the monarch population. Again, that's all really easy, but the main 2 important things is have a food source and a place to raise their young, which is their host plants for any moths and butterflies that you may be interested in. And it's actually not very hard to get like a lot. And I do believe that the OSU Agricultural Extension has an entire list of many flowering bushes and flowers that you can grow that will attract different kinds of butterflies. It tells you what kind of butterflies or moths that they attract. So that's a great resource. I will try my very best to include that in the notes in this episode. And that is it for today. I thank you very much for listening, and have an amazing day.